Once upon a time, in a small town at the edge of a dense forest, stood a mysterious house. This house, known as the House of the Black Widow, had been frightening and worrying the residents of the neighborhood for years. Legend had it that the house was cursed, and all who dared to cross its threshold became victims of unknown and inexplicable forces. The locals told stories about the house's former owners. It was said that its first owner was a woman named Elizabeth Morgan. She was known in the area as a witch and practiced dark rituals inside the house. As her sinister reputation spread, people began to avoid the place, convinced that it possessed some kind of diabolical energy. However, despite all the warnings, the family decided to buy the house. They did not believe in superstition and believed that all the stories about the curse were nothing more than fiction. Buying the house seemed like the perfect opportunity to live in a quiet and secluded place. The first few weeks in their new home passed quietly, and the Johnsons began to doubt the veracity of the local legends. As time passed, however, they began to notice strange things. At night, footsteps were heard in the house, though all family members were in their rooms. Objects moved from place to place. Doors opened and closed on their own. The family was frightened and alarmed, but decided to ignore it, hoping it could be explained scientifically. They turned to paranormal experts to analyze the house and find out what was going on. The investigation confirmed that supernatural forces did exist in the house. Experts found traces of mystical rituals performed here in the past, as well as anomalous energy fields surrounding each room. As the Johnson family spent more and more time in the house, terrifying events began to occur more and more frequently. Every night they heard incomprehensible whispers and groans coming from under the floor. Shadows, distorted and uncertain, came through the walls and moved about the rooms, causing an eerie sense of surveillance. The family tried to leave the house, but with each step back, they met an invisible force that blocked their way. The doors they had opened suddenly closed before their eyes, forcing them back into the house. It was clear that something uninvited and unkind existed within these walls and would not let them leave. As the days turned into nights and the nights turned into endless agony, the Johnson family began to lose their minds. Visions haunted them day and night, and they felt that dark forces were trying to take over their souls. They began to grow weak and fall into madness, not knowing how to cope with this nightmare. One day, on the darkest and most restless night, the family discovered a secret door in the basement. They decided to venture out and explore this mysterious place, hoping to find answers or a way to break the curse. The basement turned out to be flooded with the dim light of candles that burned evenly throughout the room. In the center stood an old altar, covered in dust and draped in cobwebs. On the altar lay an ancient black-covered book, radiating a strange energy. The Johnson family approached the altar with caution and trepidation. They sensed that it was the heart of evil, and at the same time an opportunity to find salvation. Determined to risk it, they opened the forbidden book, and its pages began to unfold before them. The ancient pages were covered with strange symbols and mysterious spells. The family read these incomprehensible words aloud, hoping to find answers or a way to exorcise the evil that had taken over their lives. Immediately after their reading began, a strong wind filled the air. Candles began to flicker and go out, and the atmosphere became saturated with evil. In the depths of the basement came the terrible cries of souls caught under the power of the curse. The shadows took real form and began to surround the family, hunting for their lives. In a last desperate attempt to escape, the Johnson family found an exorcism prayer in a book. Through the screams and noise of sinister forces, they repeated these words, loud and insistent, trying to awaken the light and the power to overcome the darkness. Suddenly, the house began to howl and shake. The walls parted, and the family found themselves in the fresh air. Everything around them froze. and the darkness that had enveloped their lives dissipated. They were alive, but life would never be the same again. The house of the Black Widow remained empty and abandoned, reminding the people of the city that darkness can penetrate the most peaceful and harmless places. The legend of the house lived on in people's hearts, and they were wary of getting too close to it. No one knew what went on inside the walls of the Black Widow house after the Johnson family left. It continued to be a source of evil, attracting curious and desperate souls who risked their lives to explore its secrets. Some of them disappeared without a trace, becoming yet another victim of the curse. And so it went for years, until finally the fateful night came. Lightning cut through the sky, illuminating the house with a powerful light. That night, strange and piercing cries erupted from the depths of the Black Widow's house, as if its sinister essence was protesting its prisoner. In the morning, as the first rays of sunlight penetrated the trees, the house was gone. Only the ruins and the memory of the terrible events remained where it had stood. The locals breathed a sigh of relief. Their nightmare was finally over. But even today, on the edge of the forest, where the house of the Black Widow stood, a certain mystique and mystical aura is felt. People walk by with apprehension and excitement, feeling the presence of something that has been and will not return. The story of the Black Widow's house remains in the memory of generations, reminding them of the power of evil, and that even the most beautiful facades can hide dark secrets. It has become a warning to be careful not to interfere with what lies beyond our understanding, remaining an enigma in the heart of the forest.